Okay, so hey, good morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on where you are. This is our regular bi-weekly technical meeting, interchange meeting for OpenWhisk. And today I am Vincent Ho. Today will be your moderator. And yeah, let's continue with our regular schedules. First, based on my reading of our participants, I did not see any new attendees, so I probably skip this one. And then next, regarding what, as you know, has been majorly changed or any kind of significant milestone you would like to talk about for any modules in OpenWhisk, please feel free to go with it. No? Okay. Based on what I've been received in the either email thread or email, I had quite a few topics we can talk about. I think first one is about adding some Helm charts for deploying AMQP providers. So James, Thomas, are you ready for this topic?
Yeah, shall I, can people hear me?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so this will be a fairly short one. Let me share my, can I share my screen, Vincent? There we go, let me share like Firefox and see if you can see that. Okay, so yeah, so I think I kind of presented on the call previously about some work I've been doing around building a kind of pluggable event provider. So, you know, a lot of the event providers we have in Cloud and Kafka, they have a kind of central core of code, which is kind of redundant or copied and pasted between a lot of the providers. And so at Christmas, when I was looking to build another one, I did some work to kind of extract out that common code into this pluggable event provider, which I kind of talked about on one of the previous calls. There's some slides about it if people are interested in how it works and that kind of stuff. And it's just like 90% of the code in most of the event providers. It handles all the trigger management and interfacing with the system, which means that when you come to write a new event provider, it's much simpler to do, right? It's just not, you don't have to deal with all the trigger management stuff. And so this was the event source that I started at Christmas, right? And it was for an S3 provider for something internal at IBM. And they've used this to provide the new experimental S3 service. But recently I kind of left that alone for a little bit. I've come back to it recently. I wanted to do two things. One was build more event sources, because now it's super easy to do, right? So I started to build out event sources, see if I can find any bugs and things like that in the event provider, and then work out how to actually get it running in the platform so that when users run OpenWhisk by default, it's kind of available for them without having to configure and set up the event provider stuff. So I started a couple of weeks ago with I thought I'd take AMQP on, which is the protocol that things like RabbitMQ use. So it supports RabbitMQ, ActiveMQ, like there's loads of different providers that support this kind of standard messaging protocol. And fairly quickly was able to build the event plugin for AMQP. And because this is a kind of traditional queue, the code was really small, right? With the S3 one, I had to deal with caching of the data coming back and comparisons, that kind of stuff. And you can see with this is just a queue, like the code is kind of absolutely tiny. So I kind of finished that one off for RabbitMQ. And then recently I've been moving on to Redis, which I'm kind of working on at the moment. And this is to listen to events from Redis. This is both from PubSub. So Redis has a PubSub mechanism in it. So you can publish and subscribe, use it as kind of lightweight PubSub mechanism. But then there's also Streams. So Streams is a new feature in Redis 5, which is really nice, which provides a kind of unified log, a bit like Kafka. And is just a really lightweight implementation of a kind of a single log. And since so many people already have Redis, this is a really neat feature that announced in Redis 5. And I've been working on that as well. And I hope to have that kind of finished in a week or two. So I've kind of started building some more plugins as we've seen, and I think I might have a go at MQTT as well, as I know IoT is kind of a common protocol that people like to do with serverless. So I think that could be a kind of final one. And it's helped me to find bugs in the pluggable provider and things like that that I've been fixing upstream. And then the next thing, obviously, for me to do is work out, okay, so how do I actually make it easy for people to use? And so I thought I would go for Kube, right, and look at how you would add it to the Kube deployment by default. So when you enable the provider, as you can do in the Kube deployment, it would automatically install the pluggable provider with and set up the plugin for the particular event source that you want to be able to use, with the idea that then we can do this for the other event sources and building. And then when people are using the Kube deployment of OpenWhisk, they'll have the option to set the config flag to turn on this event source, and it'll all be set up for them. Since we kind of seems that we're kind of standardizing on Kube as the deployment platform and deployment technology going forward. So I kind of finished this last week and opened the PR for Dave Grove to have a look at. I was copying. It's just Helm charts, right? There's already an image that I built locally, and so it's just copying what was existing for the other event providers, and then making this appropriate to the pluggable provider. And this is what it kind of looks like, right? If you're desperate to see how it works, you can kind of look at the PR. Dave said it was all right. So at some point I'll get around to kind of finishing it up. I think the main thing left to do from my perspective is, what do I need to do? Yeah, I've got to get the pluggable event provider building and pushing images to Docker Hub, because at the moment the image isn't on Docker Hub for this. I added the changes to actually build the image, and all the build stuff is already there. So I just need to set up the Travis, and away we go. So one of the things I've got to do that, which will then allow me to reference that external Docker image in the external Helm charts, and then I'll add the plugins I'll add the providers, not just for MQP, but for Redis, S3, and maybe MQTT as well. So this is just kind of share some of the work that I've been doing on this event source stuff. It has made it much, much simpler now to have had event sources, and it's a really easy thing to do for people. So it really only takes a couple of dozen lines of JavaScript to add in your new favorite event source. So hopefully it's been something that in the projects the event sources that project comes with have been there since the start. And I think the complexity of adding new ones is something that's put people off. So hopefully with this work, and I'm going to write some blog posts about how I did it and demo the new event source and things like that, should hopefully maybe encourage people if they want to get stuck in adding new event sources. This is a really easy and kind of scalable way to do it.
Okay, good, James. Are we also transforming the existing event source to use this model?
That's a good suggestion. It's something that people have talked about before. I think it could be a good idea. I'd have to check with the community whether we wanted to take on this work for something. The only reason I think we maybe don't do this is that I'm worried about introducing bugs, basically. And those event sources, existing ones, are very stable, but they're very crucial, and I'd be very worried about accidentally breaking something. So I probably, until we've fleshed out, I think until the pluggable provider has been tested out a bit more, and maybe people have actually used it in production, I'd be a bit hesitant about doing that. And I think I'd rather focus on adding new event sources than doing the port in the meantime, until we decide that maybe this is a good solution for lots of them going forward.
Yeah, what I can see is that we're trying to transform the let's say event source, event target model into a kind of pub and sub models. If any event has been triggered, we can just send out a message into this message queue, so that on the other end, the service can pick it up. This is what I think of for this kind of proposed change.
Yeah, I think it's got a lot of room to grow in future. So yeah, I'm going to finish up all this work and then do lots of blog posts and documentation on it to kind of publicize it and see if people are interested in it.
Yeah, nice. Does anyone have any other comments? Okay. So let's move on to the next one. James, I also see the next one is about a pluggable model. Pluggable events even provided to add more event source. Okay, I think I think probably have already covered that. Yeah. Okay. Next, I can talk about some naming convention change of the tags in our runtimes of Go and runtimes of Ruby. As I introduced forgot to add the number. Well, as I introduced in the last meeting that after we release something, we got a successful vote, then we're about to add a tag to that certain repositories. Then I found out that different runtime repository may have different naming conventions. Some go with the number directly, but some we have to add. For example, Go, we need to add like Golang, 1.11. And for Ruby, we need to add like Ruby 2.5 action or Ruby 2.6 action loop as the tag. Now, I have changed them by simplifying from the full name to the number only. So later when we tag the Go repository, we only need to add like 1.11 or 1.12 as a number. And for Ruby, we only need to add like 2.5 or 2.6. We don't have to add Ruby in front of this or Golang in front of them anymore. So that's basically what the change has been doing for these repositories. But I found out that during the fix, the Ruby 2.6, the build of Ruby 2.6, it currently breaks. Really need help to need somebody else to help to fix that. Otherwise, all the PR builds have been failed. Yeah, that's what I've been just found out.
Yeah, I was just saying in the chat, Vincent, that Justin is our Ruby expert and can probably help you dig into that. If it's like a Ruby build problem rather than something else.
Yeah, I found that a Ruby build used to be okay like a few days ago, but it just started to fail since 2 days or 3 days ago.
I'll try and help you out tomorrow after day after I've done my presentation.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, good luck with the presentations. Thank you. Okay, so any other new topics folks would like to talk about for today?
Yeah, I mean, we have the graduation vote, and I know Roderick's been very active, and Dave as well. So thanks both for stewarding the process, monitoring the emails, and responding in diplomatic ways. Just a couple points. First is I found out this morning that, ironically, although all the OpenWhisk trademarks are transferred to Apache Foundation, no one on Apache executed the domain name registration transfer. So I'm back with my friends in the IP and legal department at IBM to try and talk to Apache Legal so they complete execution of the domain name transfer. So I know that openwhisk.org has been at least typed a few times in threads regarding, I think, Docker Hub and other contexts recently. So just wanted to let people know that just when I thought things were done, that there's still one thing left, but hopefully that'll happen relatively quickly, and Mark at the ASF Legal will act or find somebody to designate to do the transfer and accept the transfer. So then I know that just letting people know that Roderick reached out to me about the short header stuff, because I know that myself and people from my team have worked originally to use short headers, and I thought that given discussions we'd read and the documenting what we've done, and that everything is fine, but not wanting to have to be referred to ASF Legal, given my experiences there, I've decided just to starting tomorrow, after a couple of morning meetings, take tomorrow and start going through all our release repos and just changing all short headers to full headers. It seems ridiculous. I still plan to ask ASF Legal after the fact, just for my own sanity, because it just seems stupid to have a 20, 30 line header for a sort of basic YAML file that's 3 lines long.
That's tedious, but that's really a ton of work.
Yeah, it is, and I'll see how much I can get done. But I'm going to start the work tomorrow in earnest and take it to completion, because it backs against the wall, and if we really want to graduate and keep the momentum going, that's what we have to do. And I caught the last couple of meetings, Dave on the Docker stuff, and I know Vince had some ideas like, what do we need to do for Docker? I know that, for my part, I know that we noted a few weeks ago.
Docker images.
that we need, we can add clarity and information on Docker Hub itself. But I haven't had time yet to see if Justin responded with anything discrete that we should be doing, or if you wanted to comment or tell me what the state of things are, Dave, I'd appreciate it.
So I need to send a mail to the dev list, but basically, so I looked at what the thing that Justin pointed us to, and it's actually a fairly reasonable set of objectives for what they're trying to accomplish with uses of Docker Hub and npm and other Maven, all these other packaging forms. For us, it's a fair amount of work. In particular, the thing that's going to be painful is the way we're using the latest tag is really not right. Latest should not be pointing to a nightly build, and that's going to be incredibly inconvenient for our CI/CD processes. But I think it's actually the right thing to do from a user perspective, right? If someone just does a Docker pull on, Apache OpenWhisk /invoker, they should not get unreleased code, right? They should have to do something explicit to get unreleased code, like put nightly on the end of that. And right now, all of our latest tags go to whatever Git head build that we have, and so I think that's painful. We need to discuss it on the dev list, but I really think actually that what the Apache Foundation is trying to do is actually correct, and we need to figure out how we're going to get into line with that. And probably a piece of that is we should be, over the next couple months, migrate to publishing under Apache /OpenWhisk instead of OpenWhisk. And as we migrate things, maybe start applying this new way of doing it there, so we can incrementally do it without breaking stuff. But it's going to need some work and some thought.
Okay. So,
I mean, conceptually, we're close. It's just that our use of the latest tag is really not conformant, and that's pervasive in our infrastructure. So that will take work.
Okay, is the latest tag the only issue that I'm concerned about?
That's the main one. I mean, the other things are relatively minor. Like for each image, the Docker file that defines the image needs to have a full ASF license header. I think we probably need to fix that. That's trivial. And then we need the sort of like description of the image with the right disclaimers and the right legal stuff. That's a one-time kind of cost. The thing that's going to be painful is if you're not pulling latest anymore, then you've got to go and do things differently in all of our infrastructure. You have to explicitly name the tag in various places. Yeah, I think that's the main thing. I mean, the other things that we're doing.
So we can't. So it's not just changing the tag to another name. I saw that there was a link. I didn't go to the link. So are you saying that you have to?
Right. Well, the problem is we can change the tag. We can tag it called nightly instead of latest.
Okay.
But there are lots of places where, and that would be perfectly reasonable. The thing that's unfortunate is Docker has special semantics for latest, right? If you don't say anything, you get latest.
Right.
And so a lot of our testing infrastructure doesn't say anything, so it gets latest. And so we have to go through and find all the places we've done that.
Okay. Yeah.
And so it's a small change, and it technically makes sense. It's just going to be sort of painful to do incrementally, and we'll be finding places where we didn't do it for weeks, as we're still pulling an old image on some test configuration somewhere.
Yeah, so we've got to be explicit in our build release process, and all of our scripts have to include that as when we build the image name and before we push it.
Yeah, we definitely need to how Travis push out the images. I think that's where we need to change.
Yeah, I'm not so much worried about the pushing as the pulling. They're all the places we pull images.
Oh, okay.
Again, we deploy with Ansible and we don't say a tag, and so we get latest.
Yeah.
And that won't happen with nightly. You'll get whatever was last tag latest, which will be some release from months ago.
Okay, so it sounds like we need.
Yeah.
It sounds like we need issues open on both accounts. So anywhere where we pull the things to do automated testing.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the first thing is to have a devless discussion, just to sort of make sure that I'm not, like, I know what I would like to do, but I want to try to make sure that the community is good around that, and maybe there's simpler things to do that other people will think of. Thanks,
Dave. And I'll endeavor to make a mental note of Docker files about the license header as well. So that's cool.
Right. Yeah. I mean, go ahead, Matt. Sorry.
Oh, no. So I thank you for leading the discussion, and we'll just see what the community responds. I guess, we knew we were aggressive trying to get to the board to graduate in June, and nothing says there can't be a gap between our local vote and the incubator vote. But it seems that given that Justin chairs the incubator board, and at the state of things, that we'll probably want to get all these things fixed before we take the next step and initiate the vote at the incubator board level.
Yeah, I mean, I think we should be at least showing progress on them. I mean, our mentors are all in the IPM seat as well. Their vote may be different on that vote than on our dev list vote, but
it's unclear to me if part of me wants to say that as long as we have defects opens, we have a discussion going, we're showing that we're working on it in progress. That's what a normal functioning full top level project PMC would be doing when encountering problems like this. The question is, it's muddy water to me if they're going to say that these things should be fixed. That's kind of the harsh wording. Seems it doesn't say like, hey guys, put a process in place to fix this. He's like, deal with it, and it's not clear to me, if he means, to me it feels like he wants us to fix it before we, go any further in the graduation process.
Right. I mean, I think as a practical matter, the board meeting's in 7 days. And something would have to be in their agenda by like Sunday. And so I just don't see that happening.
Yeah, it wouldn't happen anyway. So we'll just.
So, we shoot for July.
Shoot for July now. Yeah. All right. Breathing room. All right. Thanks, Dave.
Hey, thank you. Thank you so much, Dave.
Hey, Vincent.
Hi. Hi, Trudy.
I had something to share.
Please go ahead. Stop.
So I have been working on Node.js runtime from past couple of weeks. Let me share my screen. You guys see my screen?
Yep.
Yes.
So this is regarding the OpenWhisk runtime changes running on Knative, and I have so this was the thought that when we have a zip file, there are some manual steps like precompile steps that are required from the client before the action can be created. So I've added kind of a automation, like a pre-process into the runtime itself, so that on Knative, when you provide a GitHub repo, the runtime would pull the repo. Knative actually pulls the repo, and then runtime installs all the dependencies and zips the file, and then basically gets decoded, the base64 decoded data gets loaded as action source. So this is from our OpenWhisk repo docs. This is the process that everyone has to do today for creating a zip file action. So I took pretty much the same example, and so this is and I have actually added the same example, index.js and package.json here in the incubator OpenWhisk test repo under packages left pad. So this is my Knative build file for guys who are not much familiar with Knative. They have kind of under specification, there are sources. So I'm pulling runtime. So this is right now off of my own repo and DevTools. I have a PR almost ready to merge. But just for the demos. So I'm pulling the runtime here and then the application source here. And the target part, I have to specify where exactly I want to pull the application source so that I can specify, I can basically point the runtime to grab the code from there. So we have OpenWhisk project URL. It's kind of an environment variable needed for the runtime to know where the source is, and basically set the OpenWhisk binary as true. These arguments are based on the existing runtime init
Template.
data. What is it?
Is it based on a kind of build template?
Yes, and
Okay.
also in turn, it's based on the existing init data, the value that we provide.
Yeah.
So, so more important, I mean, the most important arguments here are the that it's a binary, specifying that it's a binary, and where the source is located. So what this basically helps with is the runtime we have under Knative. So this is the source, runtime source. We have knative.js added. So here it basically marshals. In turn, it installs the dependencies, then zips the file, and then loads the base64 encoded, and sets the appropriate init data into basically the JSON payload. So I have a blog post I'm working on, almost ready to publish. Here is the and I have tested this on IBM Cloud, and this is working great. So basically, runtime does all the post-processing, pre-processing, and then it's basically the action it's ready to invoke. So let me just run it. There's only 3 steps. Like, you need to basically apply your build and then apply the service.yaml, and then you can initiate and invoke at the same time the action. So I just need to run this right now because I've already have so this is my IBM Cloud. I have a Kubernetes, and So my this is the service.
Your token had to refresh.
Yeah, sometimes if I think I'm doing it for the it takes some time. So this is my service, and I have this URL, and I just have to hit that URL with. Let me just grab it from here. And now that will create the pod for the service since I haven't run it since. So basically the action was initiated and it's running now. Oops. So it's basically it was initiated. I had already initiated and it's running now. So that's this is the result. I have to see what is this. But the idea is basically all the pre-processing was done by the runtime, and we just have to provide the GitHub repo. So this is done with the help of Knative build functionality, and also the changes in runtime itself.
Pretty. I had a look at the PR recently and was looking at the docs. This seems really good. Good work on this. Is there any, like, with the changes to Knative build, will this affect us at all in the mechanism we do this? I've not followed too well the Knative build, but
Yeah,
I don't know, Vincent or Pretty.
Yeah, well, Vincent said to me last week. Knative build work group is figuring out how to deprecate themselves.
So it's like we're moving everything.
We don't know what's going to happen. I mean, they might actually delete the entire Knative repo and basically. So I don't know what they have no governance process.
Chetan, can you go mute, Chetan?
I muted him. So we don't know what's going to happen. So we're looking worst case scenario is that everything Pretty and we have done on Knative build so far can be completely deprecated. So I've asked Pretty kindly if she wanted to look at Tecton, and since build pipeline was supposed to be version 2 of Knative build, and a lot of these same facilities exist in a similar manner to look to see if we could migrate that there. And I hope Pretty chooses to do that at some point in the future. But this is all part of trying to make the developer experience nicer for users using OpenWhisk and carry that experience over on Knative. And as well, trying to see how much we can do as we perhaps look to redesign the OpenWhisk model and concepts onto Kubernetes with Knative as a tool we use, and perhaps now Tecton as a tool, maybe Kata as a tool. How we minimize the control plane. That's the goal. I mean, the goal is to do more for the developers in the actual runtime and container proxy, and do other advanced things going forward, things that Michele has already experimented with. And I'm really eager for Michele to come back from his self-isolation reviewing his book draft to see if he can fulfill his promise to me to carry over these concepts we put into the Node.js runtime into his proxy, his Go proxy, that then all the other runtimes can have similar functionality. That's the goal. That's the larger goal.
For whoever knows Tecton kind of more familiar, it's going to be this. It'll stay kind of the same though, I guess, right? There's going to be a YAML file.
Well,
something.
I've been working, contributing to Tecton pipeline recently, and to make long story short, it just like build templates becomes task, then build become task run. That's the short version. That's the definitely short version.
It's more like a CI/CD. language. Basically, the names change, but the process remains almost the same.
Yeah.
And it's just going to build, it's going to build an image, and then Knative serving will use that image with the work that we've has done in the runtime. So
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, all Knative server knows is a container that responds important. That's all it cares about. So.
Yeah, Ben, I'm hoping actually that Tecton would have a lot more functionality than Knative.
Yeah, that's why they have Tecton pipeline.
Right.
Exactly.
Because we want to do a lot more things in the pipeline anyway.
So they have, let's say, more complicated logic in order to orchestrate all the let's say tasks. We can either run them parallel or sequential way. We can define which one runs after which one. So
ideally, we want to build different purpose-made runtimes through the pipeline process. So you can build developer builds. We can marshal not just from one application source, but maybe from multiple sources to bring in perhaps other like debuggers, or bring in other things we can bake into the container. That's what we want to do. And I need to do it because I'm playing around a lot with Java, and I need to play around with Java for another goal, and to figure out what we're doing in terms of runtime strategy and JVM strategy with Java, and Quarkus and GraalVM and all these things are really pushing the boundary of what we can do with serverless. But and this concept of this developer inner loop, really need the pipeline pipeline connected to Knative eventing. This needs to be a closed loop process, and with control at the discretion of the developer at the development phase, test phase, and then in production. It needs to be have the same pipeline work for all different roles.
okay, yeah, good. So any other comments regarding this Node.js builds on top of Knative?
No, this is great work, and I know how hard Pretty worked on this, because she was frustrated because she was trying to do this with Minikube, and the ports were not opening up for her. She tried really hard for days to try and change Minikube to allow her to connect to GitHub.
Yeah.
And magically it worked when we went to an actual production Kubernetes system.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is really good work.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's move on into the next topic. Anyone would like to bring up? No, I think we can have definitely free time now.
Need another moderator for next week if you can find a person.
Yeah, if if nothing new is available now, so would anyone volunteer to? Yeah, I can volunteer to be next moderator. Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you so much. Okay, so I'll give almost like 20 minutes back to everybody. So let's call it a meeting now. Okay, thank you so much for your attending, and we'll see everybody probably in two weeks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks,
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
guys.